A year ago, I bought a ticket to a conference worth thousands of dollars I couldn't even attend. I was 17, running a content agency, desperately looking for a mentor. The airline wouldn't even let me board. Apparently, I was too young. Most 17-year-olds would have taken the refund. Instead, I started a business, dropped out of school, and on my 18th birthday, I flew out to Arizona with a one-way ticket to meet Andy Elliott and a flat down their $100 million empire. They asked me to leave the building, but here's what I remember hearing at Patrick Davis Vault conference. Your vision has to be so clear, the rejection becomes irrelevant. This is what happens when you're too young to know what's impossible. Let me tell you everything. Welcome to Italy. The conference that would have changed everything was 48 hours away. But first, let me tell you why I was even trying to get there. It was at 16 that I ended up getting kicked out of my household, and during that period, it was a bit of an unstable living situation, to say the least. But basically, going to this conference would give me like a second opportunity to be able to build my career. I knew that based off a PVD conference that I'd ended up listening to, he always said, instead of trying to run a business yourself at a very young age, it's far better for you to find somebody that's already done what you want to do, learn from them for a couple of years, like a real savage. So taking that advice in, I knew this would be the opportunity to find that savage that I want to work for the next couple of years. And that person just so happened to be Andy Elliott.
I want to see who's the most coachable person in this room. Those are $100 million chairs!
But here's what nobody tells you about perfect plans. They're usually the enemy of perfect timing. While I was waiting for permission, my competition was already building. So I did what any rational person would do. I started building a business from the back of my math class. Imagine taking a $2,000 sales call in class when your teachers still think that you're doing calculus. Well, that was my reality for about 6 months. And so I got to a point where I was working a lot in classes, which the teachers, after realizing I was doing that after a while, weren't too happy about it. I ended up having a conversation with one of the teachers where they started to say, I mean, you know what, you're not exactly in class all the time. We can realize that the commitment's not there. It's probably best you make a decision here. It was May 2025, around that time, that I ended up dropping out of school. And so making money with the business actually supported me massively making this decision, because knowing that obviously I do have money coming in and income to begin with, knowing that, and also the amount of time that I would have freed up because of not being in school, it seemed like a no-brainer at the time. At least it did to me. So the first move I made, now going into scale, was to think, okay, well, I can start hiring. That's when I started to bring in other people to take off the workload, especially like the video editing, the actual deliverables for clients. That was really a massive step with the business, because it allowed me to take so many more sales calls, and by sales calls, it then allowed me to obviously generate more revenue on the back end so I could start to scale the rest of the business. I bought another ticket. This time I could board, but I wasn't going there to network. I was going there to hunt.
This event's gonna bring all of us closer, and we will remember this together for decades and decades and decades to come.
This time, as I mentioned earlier, I was here for a very specific occasion. I wanted to start working with the Elliott Group and just getting as close as I could with the rest of the team. And so to at least prepare myself, provide some value up front to the rest of the team, I ended up coming with some cross chains as gifts for the rest of them. One of them, which in fact I'm holding with me here if you can see that. I basically did everything in my power during that time to just get my foot through the door with them. Whether it was sending out an Instagram story, which I put together, I tagged every single one of them in the Instagram story, and I minimized the text so you couldn't see that you had been tagged, but for some reason they would have got a notification. As I started to build up more connections with them, started following them more on Instagram, they sent out an Instagram story of them at the gym in Orlando before the conference had started that morning. So they'd all hit like a 5 a.m. gym session. I realized that the gym that they were all going to was about 5 minutes drive away from the Airbnb that I was staying in during this whole event period. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't I just go meet the rest of them? So that morning I went down 5 a.m. I probably got up at like 4 a.m. just to prepare for it, and I got to meet the whole team. I then realized who I should be speaking to actually get this role, the sales manager, the sales recruiter. And so I was like, okay, well, now that I have this name in mind, I got to go and find him at the gym. It just so happened to be he was the one guy that was probably like available most to go and speak to. And so I got talking with him for a while, and that was when it kind of all changed for me. So he told me, yeah, I mean, I'll let you take a few calls sometime. Which, I mean, that was good enough for me. And let's just say, I think from that point onwards, I took that statement that he said a little too literally. For 30 days straight, I became their shadower. Not annoying, I hope, but omnipresent. As by this point I'd returned to the UK, I decided it was still best to continue obviously running the business that I currently have, the content agency. Whenever I had any opportunity throughout the day, just any free time whatsoever, I'd spend that just trying to get as close to the Elliott group as possible. Whether I was sending them like an Instagram story. But by this point, I knew that something was missing. I knew that something more had to be done to get us across the line. And so at this time, I decided to make a quite crazy decision at the time, and I decided to take a one-way flight to Arizona. Now, during the arrival of when I showed up in Arizona, Scottsdale, and turned up at the company building, I was met by the actual sales manager, which I'd met at the Vault conference. To his surprise, I was obviously turning up, and he was quite shocked, I suppose. In a good way or a bad way, I still don't know. I hope it was a good one. And so what really ended up happening is they gave me a tour to begin with straight off the gate. He got one of the rest of the sales team to come out and show me the rest of the team and just the overall building itself, which is great just to see everybody there and the people that I'd met previously at the conference, just getting a chance to catch up with them and overall just seeing how they operate. Everybody on the floor, like even people just working like 8 p.m. still taking sales calls. You never see that in the UK, that's for sure. That next day, I ended up having a conversation with that sales manager in his office. And he basically, the first thing he really asked me was, what's your story? Instead of worrying about your resume, your credibility of what you've really done, they're more interested in like the story you have behind you, because they really feel like sales people are not born, they're made. And so in this case, they feel like they can train up anybody under the sun as long as you have a good work ethic, you're strong-minded, you've got your physique in shape, all these right things that come into play. The sales is almost just an accumulation of all these things. It's like how you do something is how you do everything. So during the weekend, after this happened and I had this conversation with the sales manager, it made me realize that, well, I don't really have a plan for the next few days. Like I've got my flight out here, my one-way ticket, but like what was really next for me? And so he realized that and he was like, well, it just happens to be that we actually have Sales Cop, our biggest event of every month this weekend. And because I'd obviously flown out, he was like, well, you know what? Okay, have a ticket. That next morning, I got up early, got my shoes on, got out straight out the door and was the first one at that sales con, ready to learn. And the event itself did not disappoint, I can tell you that much. So by that point, the weekend then passed. And it came to the Monday morning where I was thinking, well, okay, like as much as I've had like a few conversations with a lot of people here, some important people in this company, gained some good relationships, had a few conversations with the sales manager, the recruiter, I haven't really moved the needle here. Like nothing's really happening. I had a few conversations with the sales manager already, and it didn't seem like it would be necessarily the easiest thing to move out and work out like in person with them. Some things like not even in my control, to be honest with you. And so I came in that Monday morning, and not really to my surprise, I had the sales manager, or at least one of his recruits, come up to me and basically just saying like, look, we have a lot of people coming out of this building. We can't have everybody coming in because, I mean, people are signing legal documents in here. Like, we can't have everybody just coming around here for legal reasons, which, I mean, made total sense to me, by the way. I understood that completely. But they basically just said very politely, very nicely, like, this isn't the right time. It's better to come in like 6 months when you're ready. You've got everything else locked in first. Yeah, I mean, that was it, basically. It just, yeah, they made it very clear. And I wasn't too disappointed, honestly, when I found out. I thought I would be more frustrated if I didn't get the role. But The reason I wasn't frustrated is because I made me realize how much more capable I am of achieving great things. But yeah, coming back, I was like, you know what? I don't care. Regardless of whoever I'm working for, I'm gonna make it work. I don't care if it's for Andy Elliott, if it's for myself. I'm gonna make something of myself here.